sadly topical, but I thought it'd be some good information to get out. As somebody who has literally survived 2 mandatory evacuations for wildfires and talked about it on the podcast, I thought now with things going on right now, I believe in the Panhandle region, Oklahoma and Texas wildfires, people there are evacuating, be a good time to put out this episode. So if you know somebody and you want to share the episode, feel free to share it. Blessings are meant to be shared. With that, the content. So, as somebody who's been blessed to get through safely 2 actual bug outs due to wildfire, actually having to evacuate, emergency orders, having to evacuate an area due to wildfire, I thought it would be a good time to put it out because although I live large stints off-grid, have no TV, even I heard today about some wildfires going on, so I thought it would be a good thing to put out this episode again for people looking to be prepared for wildfires and some real-world first-hand experience. Anyway, with that, hopefully you enjoy and never need this episode. Have a blessed day. Hello, and welcome to the Alpha Male Podcast. The podcast where we talk about what it means to be an alpha male. The right way. Made in the image of God. Strong and dominant, and we don't apologize for it. If you read the title to this episode, you may know why. It's a little bit different. Coming at you the way we used to, just uploading on the iPhone. I'll skip the normal plugged-in bio. Say, first and foremost, I am a Christian, a servant of God and a follower of Jesus Christ. Marine Corps combat veteran a few times. Went to war twice. Also served as an urban warfare instructor for the United States Marine Corps. Also served in the U.S. Army full-time and part-time. Also in the private sector. Served as a private contractor, whatever you want to call it, private contractor, mercenary for a 3-letter government agency. I won't specify. Also served in law enforcement for a few years. LAPD, worked regular assignments, more specialized assignments. Done quite a bit of competition shooting. Started that even before I joined the Marine Corps at 17. Been blessed to win more shooting competitions than I can remember. Been a professional big game hunter and guide. Started hunting when I was a boy, and I've been blessed to hunt all over this beautiful country. Was also the commander of a tactical team in a large metropolitan area where our primary job was to stop active shooters. I'm sure I'm skipping some stuff, but the most alpha male thing about me is that I follow the ultimate alpha male, Jesus Christ. So, with that, let's get into today's topic. Actually bugging out. So, my wife and I actually bugged out today. Like, for real. And I'm going to go over some lessons learned. The first one, the main overarching one, is that God provides. My God supplies all my needs. Those who trust in the Lord will not be put to shame. That's number 1. Number 2 is watch and be ready, because Jesus tells us, because the Bible tells us to watch and be ready. Those are the 2 main overarching themes. But I can say that we had a pretty significant wildfire today. Today was my one day off besides Sabbath, and I got up, enjoyed a cup of coffee with the wife this morning, which is a rarity. After Bible reading and prayer, did a few chores, and then headed off to the gym for a big workout. I kind of plan a big workout for my day off so that I don't have to be rushed and that I can get through it. And anyway, I was at the gym when an alert came out, and the alert said something about this area is on standby for evacuation. And I saw it and I said, okay, no big deal. This is all during the course of the same workout. A little bit later, an alert came out saying evacuation orders for such and such an area that was north of us. And I was like, okay, well, that's a little concerning. I'll wrap up my workout quick and head home. And then literally a few minutes after that, evacuation order for the area where I live and work in northern Arizona. And I was literally by the phone, saw the alert, and then my wife called, and she said, are they shutting down the store? And I said, I don't know. And she asked, I don't remember exactly how the conversation went, but I said, can you start getting the jacks and everything up on the house? If you guys don't know, my wife and I live in a toy hauler. That's how we live our life all the time. We're semi-nomadic by God's grace. We try and live simply, and we still have far more than we need. But that's how we live, and we live behind the business where I work at. I manage a firearms and training company, a general manager of that in northern Arizona. And in that short amount of time, from me getting out of my silkies for my workout and getting dressed and hitting the roads were already blocked. So I had to do some, let's call it creative, colorful maneuvering to get up to the guy that was doing the roadblock. And I pulled up to him and I pointed, because it was pretty close to my house, and I said, sir, I live right there. I don't remember exactly what I said, but something to the effect of, sir, I live right there. I got to go get my wife. And he said, okay, be safe. And he let me around the roadblock where everybody else was stopped. So a lesson there is, tell the truth. I was like, I live right there, which was true, and I got to go get my wife, which is true. And backing up a little bit, and again, this just happened today, so I may do a more in-depth thing of things we can glean from this later, so I might jump around a little bit. But lesson number 1, when the advisory came out that we were in advisory to be on standby, I should have just went home then. Like, I could have finished my workout at home if it turned out to be nothing. But I stayed at the gym probably longer than I should have. Keep in mind, this all unfolded in a matter of minutes, but minutes can really make a big difference in a big disaster like this. When I got on the road and I looked, and keep in mind, the gym is only, none of you guys don't know this, but the gym is like 5 miles from my house, maybe a little bit more than 5 miles from my house. It's not far. And there was no fire or anything when I left. And when I pulled out of the gym, it was just a giant wall of smoke. Like, you could just tell the whole area was on fire. And it went from like barely anything or even nothing when I went to the gym to thousands of acres on fire rather quickly. So I should have left sooner. That's lesson number 1 for me. And where was I in the actual chronological order? I told the wife to start getting everything ready for the camper because we're semi-nomadic, but we have like jacks and stuff down, which you can't just pull the camper away. You have to get it ready. So I asked her to start getting everything ready, and she did a great job. By the time I was able to get around the roadblock, it took quite a bit longer to get home than normal. By the time I was able to get around the roadblock and actually get there, she was already had everything ready as far as the essential stuff, and she even did some more. She did far more than was expected. She did great. She had the jacks up. She had the power unhooked. She had water ready to go. She had extra water ready to go because the Hummer sometimes does overheat, especially hauling the camper. She had that ready to go just in case. She did phenomenally far above and beyond. She had the property ready to go. Everything, pretty much everything. There was one thing we missed that we had to pull out from underneath the camper, but pretty much everything was ready to go. She did fantastic. Again, this was only a few minutes, but by the time I got there, everybody had left the business, and the owner himself was literally just pulling out as I was pulling in to get the camper. And from the time the alert came out, from the time we were leaving, it was probably 35 minutes, to give you an idea of how fast this went. From the time I got back to where we live to us leaving, it was probably 10 minutes. And I don't know that for sure, but I'm using whatever I'm judging to be the time frame there. So, again, the number 2 lesson, watch and be ready, because God calls us to watch and be ready. This is an actual bug out, but we live our lives in a way that we're ready to go, because Jesus says watch and be ready. I have a bug out bag behind the seat of my Hummer. The smoke was blowing the opposite way, but it was blowing towards us. I know that doesn't always work, but I have ways to filter out smoke and things like that. I have a bug out bag. I have my little tiny what I would call like EDC bug out bag, riding shotgun. I had, my Scar 17 sitting by the center console, and my regular EDC gear, my CCW gun. Not all my guns were packed and ready, but most of them were packed and ready in a way that I didn't have to worry about it. We just hook everything up and go. And talk about God being with us. You'll know what a big deal this is. I literally just pulled up, and then back straight up, and the hitch lined directly up with the camper to haul it away. And if you've ever done that, you know what a pain in the butt that can be. It literally just lined straight up. And we dropped it on, and we were out of there. I would say another lesson learned is, when I hit that roadblock, I said I did some creative maneuvering to get around. Well, I drive a Hummer day to day. That's my, not only my bug out vehicle for real, but it's my daily driver, and it's the thing I practice bugging out in. I have a dresser back there with clothes and food. I have quite a bit of food and ammo and guns back there, in addition to tools and things like that. A bed I have back there. The wife and I will go and, sleep in the back of the Hummer if we want to go on an adventure. So, again, we're ready. We're as ready as we can be. You're never totally ready. But just lessons learned to be ready, be prepared. We didn't have to get any of that stuff ready. And here's one of the big lessons. We weren't wondering what are we going to do, where are we going to go. We had a pre-designated bug out location set. We had been there before. We had stayed there before. We knew where we were going to go. We had an area set up in a national forest that was our predetermined bug out location. It has a creek nearby. It has wild edibles that we go and collect. It has game. It has fish. We didn't know we were getting ready for a wildfire or whatever, but we had a bug out plan in place. We had a bug out location in place. When I told my wife, we're going, she knew where we were going. She knew how we were going. We had 2 designated routes, but we picked one. She knew, and she had done it before. Not for real, but we had done it. And that's a big lesson. Watch and be ready. If for some reason you have to evacuate, if you get an emergency evacuation order for your area and you have to go, either that or you're going to burn to death. Do you have a designated place that you were going to go, and maybe a backup location and backup ways to get there? I will say that my wife did great today in this. She did phenomenal. She did as much to get this done as I did. And obviously, we can't do anything without God. Every breath that we take is by God's grace. The fact that we got here safely is by God's grace. Anyway, again, by God's grace, we got to our bug out location. We had been there before. We knew within a few feet of where we were going to put the camper, our house. We got it set up. We got it squared away. We have a little Honda generator. Again, watch and be ready. My wife has a remote job. She still had work to do when we got here, and she was able to get that done because we had, contingency plans. We were even able to get a hike in today and collect some wild edibles and cook them with our dinner tonight. I was able to get in the second workout of the day, and even though it's late, I'm getting this podcast out to you guys. If you guys don't know, I work a more than 40-hour-a-week regular job to pay the bills and everything. At least until this week. Who knows what's going on with the business this week. But anyway, I do these podcasts on my day off. So by God's grace, even with the bug out and everything, I'm getting this podcast out to you guys, even though it's late. That's part of watching and being ready, because we were, again, not totally ready, but we were ready enough to be out of there by the time I got home in 10 minutes. We didn't have to worry about food because we have food stored. We didn't have to worry about gas because we have an SOP, that a standard operating procedure that we live by, that we don't let our gas tanks get below half. We didn't have to stop for gas on the way home. We didn't have to stop for gas when we were going to our bug out location, when there's massive traffic and everybody trying to leave and roads being shut down and parts of the highway being shut down. We had gas. Not only did we have plenty of gas in our cars, we had spare gas cans. We had spare gas can in the camper, spare gas can in my wife's car, spare gas can in my car, spare water. Again, by God's grace, we live our life this way. It's not just because of today. Like, we live our life this way to watch and be ready because Jesus says to watch and be ready. And we've done whole episodes on how to be prepared. And by God's grace, that all came in today. That all came together today. And God is with us. There's a lot of, I think, tips in today's episode. So I won't go over a tactical tip. Also, I want to get this podcast out so you guys have something to listen to tomorrow. And I will give you a tactical verse because I've thought about it plenty today. And I won't recount the entirety of Psalm 91. If you don't have that memorized, it'd be a good one to memorize. But it's, I shall not be afraid of the terror by night, nor the arrow that flies by day, nor the pestilence that walks in darkness, nor the destruction that lays waste at noonday. It was literally about noon when this evacuation order came out today. But by God's grace, we're not called to have a spirit of bondage again to fear. We don't live our lives in fear. You guys are just learning about this, but the patrons, they learn about this because we have our own little group chat set up, and I've sent them some pictures of the wildfire today and let them know that we were bugging out and that we were here and safe, and kind of kept them updated. If you'd like to be a part of that, I call it the tribe. I consider it like a virtual tribe of, the alpha males, the men that listen to this podcast and the other podcasts, Simple Man Sermons, and Gunfighter Life. Anyway, if you want to be a part of that, you can join Patreon. These are free to listen to, but sadly they're not free to produce. There's costs to go into uploading these on the internet and having I guess whatever you would call it, a host. I'm not technically savvy, but somewhere these have to go to get uploaded and get put on the internet. There's also a lot of other content on there on Patreon that I'll share, practical shooting drills, things like that, tips. And if you want to, like I said, you can be part of a group chat where you're in there with like-minded men. And you can find that all at goodshepherdtraining.com, goodshepherdtraining.com. With that, man, I'm going to say thanks for listening. Pray for those who are in the path of this fire right now. There's a couple going on in northern Arizona. Anyway, have a blessed day.